24-hour news continues from News Center 4, Sunday morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is nice to have you along on this Sunday morning. And I have to tell you, yesterday was one of the most beautiful days we have seen in a long time, all the way from start to finish. Another beautiful morning in the making. The fact that we have not seen a lot of sunshine in the past couple of months only makes this weekend a little bit nicer. The good news is, have another one. Forecasters calling for another great-looking day. We'll put some detail in your forecast coming up. First, let's get to our top story.
In the news, the search for clues begins and the impact widens from Friday's explosion at the World Trade Center in New York. Here's the latest. Searchers will come through rubble today. They're combing that rubble using thermal imaging cameras to look for 2 missing Port Authority employees. The Twin Towers will stay closed at least through tomorrow while crews assess damage. That will cost one bank at least $20 million each day that its doors are shut. The closure also means the center's 55,000 employees have no current home. And also, authorities this weekend gave the first official verification of what likely caused the blast.
Our best guess is there's a high probability it is a bombing. It may be terrorist-related. Still, no one could say much more.
Looks like a bomb. It smells like a bomb. It's probably a bomb. And they've said that to you.
However, it will be days before authorities can answer the basic question of who or why someone would want to set off a bomb. Today's New York Times says that officials are even considering the possibility it was a disgruntled employee.
5 people were killed in Friday's blast, including a pregnant woman, and more than 1,000 people were hurt, all but 15 suffering from smoke inhalation or exhaustion. Rescuing some of the injured turned many people into quiet heroes. Reporter Julian Phillips talked with one person.
There are probably thousands of stories to tell of the terrifying experience of the injured and those who made it out unscathed. Donna Anderson's was perhaps one of the most compelling.
I knew that she was in grave danger. I knew if we didn't get her out of there, she would die.
She was with her buddy, 28-year-old Geraldine Hearn, on the 43rd floor eating lunch. Hearn was 6 months pregnant with a high-risk pregnancy. Trapped in the smoke and forced into premature labor, she had to be carried 30 floors to safety by firefighters. A C-section produced a 1-pound, 8-ounce baby girl at St. Vincent's Hospital.
This is the worst experience I've ever had. I think it's the worst experience Sherilyn will ever have. It was awful.
Julian Phillips for NBC News.
A lady named Marilyn White, who lives in Sacramento, was one of the thousands of people in the Trade Center when the explosion hit. She flew home this weekend to tears and hugs. She is the one in the black. White was in New York on business. She was at a luncheon at a Trade Center restaurant on the 107th floor when she heard the boom.
I really thought it was an earthquake. I wasn't sure what it was. And the speaker even made some kind of off-the-cuff remark, and we all laughed, and we thought it was funny. And then he made some reference to bullets flying, and then we laughed again, and then we felt another rumble, and then we knew that it was more serious than what it was, because shortly after that, the manager of the restaurant came in and asked us to evacuate the building.
And evacuate she did, walking down a stairwell, 107 flights to street level.
Well, the New York Times says that so far there is no sign of plastic explosives in the blast, the kind favored by terrorists. If the World Trade Center explosion is determined to be a terrorist act, John Holloman reports that it would mark the first such bombing on United States soil in decades.
For most Americans, this is the face of terrorism. Television pictures from Lockerbie, Scotland, Medellin, Colombia, or Beirut, Lebanon. But Friday's explosion at the World Trade Center in New York brings the possibility of terrorism much closer to home.
There's been a velvet curtain, in a way, that has led the American public to feel invulnerable to terrorism on its shores. And I believe the possibility of an epidemic of contagion from this event is very real.
In his weekly radio address, President Clinton sympathized with the victims, praised the rescue workers, and promised to get answers.
Working together, we'll find out who was involved and why this happened. Americans should know we'll do everything in our power to keep them safe in their streets, their offices, and their homes.
New York's governor has seen fear in the eyes of people in his state.
Fear is another weapon that's used against you. And that's what terrorists are all about, if these were terrorists. And what they're trying to do is deny you normalcy. And what we must do in this safest and greatest city and state and nation in the world is return as quickly as we can to normalcy.
White House officials won't talk about any increase in security, but the president's safety is always protected by tall fences combined with electronic devices. Explosive sniffing dogs are at work as usual, as are metal detectors for all visitors. White House aides are closely monitoring the investigation, and President Clinton is staying in touch with FBI Director Sessions. But the big question being asked here right now is who is responsible for what appears to be the return of terrorism to the United States. John Holloman at the White House.
From terrorism to a mission of mercy, American pilots may have missed their mark in Bosnia this morning. U.S. cargo planes left Germany to drop leaflets informing Muslims and others that food and other relief supplies are on the way. But initial reports say that none of those announcements have been found, that they may have fallen in the no man's land between Serb and Muslim front lines. The problem is that relief supplies are supposed to be dropped from the same height. Pilots initially said this morning's leafleting went without a hitch.
It was a high-risk mission, but fortunately, everything was pretty much uneventful, and it was a smooth mission.
Well, no word yet on whether this morning's potential snafu will in fact hamper the relief efforts. At last check, the food drops were set to start within the next day or two.